Hello, hello, hello. You are here for the Design Masterclass with myself and Hannah Oxbury. It's all about the excitement of Perspex. It's not ordinary, it's extraordinary. It's not utilitarian and, you know, your run-of-the-mill bits of plastic. We are going to make it exciting. We are going to make it versatile. We're going to make your designs absolutely exquisite with the use of Perspex in your jewellery design. And to take you on that journey, I've got our resident expert, the lovely Hannah.
Hello.
All right, we've got a bit of a masterclass. We'll take you through the products and then we'll be designing with you. So of course, what you need to get started is of course the starter kit. So we've actually put this together for you, put all the components together so that you can have the versatility to get cracking straight away. So this is our Jewellery Maker Perspex kit. And what we've got to start with is we've got the German saw frame, as it were, and it comes with its saw itself, which is all protected in the casing. So this is a 3-inch German style saw frame. You've also got within it, because rather than just the saw, you've got your 12-piece needle kit, okay? 12-piece needle file set, as it were, for the filing of your rough edges, your metal beads, your findings, shaping your polymer clay as well, not just your Perspex for after the firing. It also makes them ideal, you know, if you get into confined spaces. They're all made of really high grade steel, and they measure about 5.5 inches. So you've got 2 of the round, 2 of the triangle, the knife, 4 of the flat, half round, square, and the oval. Plus the bonus is there is the storage sleeve in there as well. Now we've also got our bench pin anvil combination as well. So here is your strong anvil that you can actually attach to your tabletops or your work surfaces, whichever you prefer. And we also have within it the wooden peg, as it were, which slides in. Now this would be for close detail work. We'll be looking at that with Hannah as well. For when you're trying to get in those awkward places, it just locks into the place, and you often find yourself working on that as well, don't you? So that is your wooden bench pin combination anvil. Now I know separately you pay a lot of money for those individually as well, because you can feel the weight in the toolkit is there anyway. So we've got those. Now, what we didn't show you the last time, because we had another plastic off, was the Perspex sheets. Now, we give you, these are all about 8 by 6 inches, and we've got quite a few different colours here, because of course we want to make that jewellery extraordinary. We've got the bright royal blue, the pillar box red, the actual pure white, as it were, plus pure white, plus the yellow, you can see, because I didn't quite manage to take the plastic off there. Pure yellow, bright, I mean real canary yellow there. We've got the black, which I know you're going to use to great effect. And you've got what is like a silvery dove grey grey there. And then you've also got the large Jewellery Maker handy box there as well to keep it all neatly stored in. So 6 of those sheets in total. Let's hold them all there so you can see all the colours. Royal blue, bright red, white, yellow, silver grey. There we go. And you've also got your large Jewellery Maker box, the bench pinch combination anvil. You've got the Hercules saw blade, the 12-piece needle file set, and your German style saw frame. All because we bundled it together for a starters kit, the acrylic jewellery starters kit, so that it is affordable, all of these components coming together at an affordable price. A mere $34.95. Now I don't know how much you paid for your individual hand saws, but you know that can be at least half that price, or at least a third of the price minimum, just for those individual hand saws. And that is a really strong blade there, saw blade there, perfect for the Perspex and the acrylics. And of course the strength, I mean this again you can use for all sorts of, you know, your hammering, your texturizing anyway, because you can attach obviously the wooden peg within it, but you can also attach in there if you wanted to. I've seen the steel blocks, the aluminium blocks. I mean, this is all your fundamentals, isn't it, Hannah?
Yeah, it's all your base kit tools that you need to create your Perspex designs. And don't just limit yourself. Obviously, you've got brilliant tools here. You can use it with anodized aluminium, metal, stamping. You'll see all the techniques that we use throughout Perspex are transferable. It's a great place to start learning how to work sheets, and then you can progress on to sheet metal as well.
Yep. Exactly, it texturizing of that metal which we love with all our precious
love,
findings and the silver and the gold and the wire work as well. So when you add up all these individual components, you know, you would at least be looking at a third of that price just for the individual saw. And I'm giving a comparison here on our Jewellery Maker prices. That's without the blade as well. So you're looking at about £11–12 on our own Jewellery Maker site just for the German saw there without the blade. So by bundling it, like I said, then of course you've got all of those files. I mean, the files are great, not just like I said for the perspex, but your polymer clay.
Polymer clay, you can use them to buff your polymer clay, silver clay, metal clay. All these tools are transferable.
After firing,
Absolutely, after firing. And it's very, very high quality tools as well, because for me that was important to bring you tools that are incredibly well made, because they're going to last you a lifetime on these pieces.
Exactly, and that's what we want. You know, we only want to buy it once and use it over and over again. So starter kit, we're going to introduce you to how these tools can be used, and NMGC06, and ultimately how they're going to be used is what we want to explore, isn't it? Because we need to use the different mediums. I mean, Eleanor Salazar makes rings out of billiard balls.
There you go.
You know, it can be anything we can make the jewellery out of. Let's make it exciting. Not just for your plastic cups and your plastic rulers.
No, exactly. There's all sorts. It's very, very transferable medium, as I've said. So to begin, obviously, I'll do a little quick sort of demo on tools themselves, because if you've never picked up a tool in your life to this extent, it can be a little bit intimidating. But once you start seeing how they work and how easy they are to use, you'll be beautifully surprised. I'm going to see that in just a moment. So. Yeah. I've already got my bench peg and my anvil attached to the table, and that is just screwed in, pop the peg in and attach it. So what we will be doing is working with the camera around so you can see straight on exactly how we cut the perspex and things. Word to note, obviously it is a clamp device, so don't put it straight onto your dining room table or anything like that, because you will mark it. So either put like, use something like an old workbench or something like that.
Should we just have a quick look at that close up as well? Yeah, because we've got that. We've got that. Coming around. Because what we've done is I didn't slide all the wood right through, but the wood bent peg itself.
It slides through into the base of the anvil.
Into the base of the anvil, so it's not going to damage the top of your nice oak table or your IKEA table. Can you see that?
That's perfect. So that's how
and
it's
then
it's
obviously it can adapt.
Yeah, you've got a screwing device that moves up and clamps it all in place. Now that surface allows you to work the perspex sheet, it allows you to work metal sheet. It is pretty much exactly the same as a steel box. If you want to hammer onto this, if you want to metal punch onto this, the anvil part of it, you can do so, because it's a really nice heavyweight piece of metal.
And what we're going to be introducing you to are these two fabulous designs. For example, I just want to show everybody the bird one first of all, because this is magnificent. The black perspex. I mean, this is what I meant about making your jewellery extravagant, exciting. Yeah. You know, it's not your run-of-the-mill. It's that, I mean, those feature pieces, those doves fly. This is exquisite, Hannah. It's absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
And I know from the sheet itself, because it's about 8 by 6, you've managed to get quite a few, shall I say, birds out of it.
Yeah, there are quite a few birds flying around the table at the moment, and that's a really interesting point. You don't waste an awful lot when you're making with perspex. I've made, I think it was 5 demo pieces with this until I finally finished on that design. Yeah. I've made a second demo piece for today's purposes, and then of course I'm going to make the pieces out this same one A5 sheet of perspex, which is 8 by 6 and which is 3mm thickness as well. And I've still got
half.
At least half left over.
You get 6 of those sheets in the kit, so.
Yeah, so you can see it goes an incredibly long way. It's just about being clever with where you place things and how you cut them out, but you can really make the perspex work for you.
And this is stunning as well. This reminds me of, I know it's a necklace feature, but I was thinking of a child's mobile.
Yeah, you can. You can adapt it to make children's mobiles. You can adapt it to make signages. If you run a craft store, imagine how effective that's going to be if you have your own craft name emblazed across the front of your store. It's going to make people stop and stare, and instantly you've got the connection there. You can then say, well, I can make your name as a badge, as a door hang, or something like that. You can make a game,
noughts and crosses.
Exactly,
you know.
Yeah. It's really, really versatile medium. And of course, once you start combining it with the gemstones,
yes,
you're taking it to that next level again. Yeah, and my little raindrop.
And we have got a gemstone bundle coming up for you later in the show as well, as you know, on the live shows as well. So,
right, should we get started?
Yes, let's, because we've got our tools, we've got the starter kit, we've got got our perspex.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to find an image either online, or we can draw it freehand straight onto the perspex backing that we like. So I've started with the birds design. As people that know me know, I work in a lot of natural designs. I take a lot of inspiration from nature. So I've taken just a little image off the internet. I don't have to try too hard to design these by hand. For the purpose of the demo, it's much easier just to print something off and stick it straight onto the perspex.
I'm liking that.
So I've taken a little swallow there, and then I'm going to use just sticky back plastic to rip that down and stick it directly onto the perspex, and that gives you a guide to follow. It gives you a template to follow. So we peel the backing off and literally find somewhere on the perspex where you know that you're going to get the most use out of the surrounding area and stick it straight on. Okay. Now this is, it's not tricky. It looks like it's quite involved, but once you get it home, once you try it yourself, you'll find just how easy perspex is to cut. It's like slicing butter. It's not, there's no resistance to it at all when we're using our saw blades. Now I've already got my saw blade set up. It's really important that there's no give in the saw blade at all. You want it nice and tight within your saw frame.
So lots of tension.
Yeah, lots of tension. I have done a demo online. If you go to our tutorial page on our website, it does show you in detail how to fit the saw blade.
Point where you can go too tight, or
you can, but you'll feel the tension in it.
Guitar strings.
Yeah, it won't snap or anything which you're pulling. So what we do to start off, get this the right way round. I'm taking one of the needle files and I'm just making a quick indent into the side of the perspex. Now the reason for that is, I put my arm right in shot then. Exactly, you get your purchase. If you just go straight in, you're going to be sort of floundering around on the edge of the perspex. If you make that initial cut with your needle file, it gives you somewhere for your saw blade to sit. And you just simply begin. Now you see, I'm holding the perspex down onto the anvil and I'm working the saw up and down in a vertical motion. I don't want to be tipping it forward or pulling it backwards, simply because you put strain on the saw blade and they can snap very easily. So you want to just gently cut through. And I'm cutting down to a point where in the design it makes sense. So I'm cutting down into a point of the tail feathers here. And you see, I'm not actually moving my saw at all. What I'm actually moving is the perspex sheet around it. And you get to little points on the design, just following the outline of it, and I'm just gently moving the perspex, putting pressure down with my left hand all of the time, and so it's nice and flat against the anvil, and gently moving it. And as I'm moving, I continue to saw. It's much easier to do it this way. If you start trying to move the saw around, you end up running the risk of cutting.
It reminds me of sewing, moving the material while the needle goes up and down.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And you're just moving around, and just cutting. And it is as simple as that. You can just take your time with it and continue cutting. You don't want to rush this. You don't have to go too fast. It's just simply cutting through. Obviously being careful that we're not getting our fingers or thumbs in the way of the blade. But you see, I'll get to another point and I turn. And then because I want a sharp turn, I'm turning quite quickly, but I'm continuing to move my saw blade. And we can get to a little area where we get stuck. That's quite normal. You just lift the tension there and continue to saw. And you see it just starts flowing again really nicely. And you continue that. You cut out all of your birds, all of your design, you get everything prepped, everything ready to continue through into creating a design. Now, what can happen after a little while, probably after about, I don't know, it depends on how many birds you make, your saw blade will blunt. That is normal, that's completely fine, don't worry about that. You just need to change the blade. If you do snap the blade, again, completely normal, these things do happen. You have an adjustable saw frame. So what you can actually do, instead of just thinking, right, well, I've just lost the whole saw blade, you can adjust the frame down to make a smaller frame and then just continue. You just screw the saw blade back into place.
How long would it be before it goes blunt? I know.
It really depends on what you're cutting and how often. I mean, I cut all of these birds and 5 other demo pieces with the same blade. which then snapped on air last time. So, I mean,
there's
it's
about
just
10 birds there and another.
Yeah, it's just however big the design is, however hard you're working the saw itself.
Another 5, yeah.
And you see, you do get areas where your saw is perhaps butting against the perspex. So just bring your saw back, adjust it slightly to a point where you can flip it round the corners of the perspex, or take your saw out and come in at a different angle. To take your saw out of a design, don't just pull it. You actually need to saw backwards, if that makes sense.
Just retrace your steps.
So retrace your steps ever so gently, and then round, retrace your steps, and you see I'm sawing backwards to get the saw out. So you're not going to run the risk of breaking the blade that way. If you just pull, you will snap the blade. Because these are 0.1 blades. So they are fine, but it does give you a much better cut to your perspex as well. So what we would do at this stage is just continue cutting. We'd cut out as many birds as you want, or as many designs as you want, until you've got them all laid out in front of you and you know where you're going with your design. This brings us to this piece. So this piece is already cut. You see, I've left the design in place, so I know what I'm doing with it, I know where I'm going with it. And actually these saw blades, because they are fine, do give a really nice finish to the perspex. If I just lift that to camera, you'll see you do get the markings along the edge of the perspex where the saw's gone in and out. That's normal, you can't help that, that's what happens with the perspex. But what you'll find, if you use sort of a thicker saw blade or anything, you'll get a more jaggedy edge. Obviously, the longer you take with these designs, the more time you take over them, cutting them slowly, the better the finish. Now, I did mention, obviously, these techniques are transferable. If you want to then progress and perhaps cut sheet metal, which we will hopefully be bringing in a couple of weeks, it's exactly the same tools, it's exactly the same technique. You just take your time with it, and that gives you a lovely cut-out bird.
So that's great. So this actual starter kit can transfer to the metal perhaps as well.
Absolutely,
yeah,
it can do. But it's a really nice way to hone your skills on something that's very, very easy to cut.
A little bit easier to start with, yeah.
Very easy to cut, and also incredibly on trend at the moment.
Oh,
you
very
know, we
much
see
so, yeah.
big designers like Tatty Divine, catwalk pieces, a lot of pop stars and things. It's very on vogue at the moment. But you can tailor these designs to suit you.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you wish with them. Okay, this is going to take us through now to the needle file set.
The needle files, which you get 12 of. Now I'm intrigued what the different, you know, the round, the triangle, the flat, what their purpose is.
It's a really great idea, if you've got offcuts of perspex, is to literally practice with them. Again, like we said in the live show earlier about master files, if you have a set so you can see how the needle files work and what cut they actually make to the perspex, it gives you a really good idea on how they work in your designs. Now in this particular piece, I'm only using 3 of the needle files. Now I'm using the sort of semicircular, so it's round on both sides but oval cut. I'm using the flat on both sides. And I'm also using, this is my favourite one, the rat's tail.
That can really get into the crevices.
Straight in, very, very, very fine one to get right in to the nooks and crannies, if you like. What you need to find is you start with obviously the more abrasive, and then you work up to the more fine, and that's exactly the same if you were working in clay, if you were working in metal clay as well. And I find it easier to go and work on the bench peg on these, so we can bring it down to our bench peg and get it right up close to us to work the needle file pieces. Making Tom work today, sorry Tom.
So this is the wooden peg we were talking about to get into the crevices and the tricky corners.
Exactly, and it's all about putting the right amount of pressure across the piece. So I'm going to hold it across my bench peg. I'm using some of my fingers and thumbs to hold that into place, and then I'm just going to go around lightly and file all these edges. And again, it's exactly the same as a saw. You need to file and move. If you file in one place, you're going to get blunt areas, you're going to get depressions into the perspex itself. You want to continuously move. And it's actually really quite therapeutic, just sitting and filing. But just look at the design. Obviously, we've got a nice flat area there, so I'm using a flat needle file to file. You just go along, filing away, to take out all of those marks that the saw blade has created. It does take a little while to get the needle file working to work out all those blade cuts. But again, you get a really nice finish, and obviously the longer you take at this stage, the more effective your end design will be. So that's an example of that. Now we can use the oval files for more sweeping curved areas, like down towards the tail section. If I went into this curved section with a flat, it's not going to hit all the surface because it's not getting straight into the curve itself. And again, it may look it's almost slightly unnatural sort of sitting at this angle doing it, but this is how you would sit at a workbench if you're a professional jeweller. This is how you sit. You go through just filing off all of the saw cuts with the appropriate sized needle file. And again, like at this tail section, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, actually, I want the tail to be more defined. I want that area there to be more like a swallow's tail. I want a much more cut into it. So instead of going back into my saw blade, because by this point the piece is quite small to be trying to fiddle with a saw blade, I can cut it with my needle files. So I'd push it into my bench, taking the edge of one of my rounds and file it away. And you keep filing, it's a bit squeaky, you keep filing to make a more defined area to which you can then insert the different needle files, such as the rat's tail, to get a much more defined shape. And it's about just making the needle files work for you. You can take a look at them, you can think, right, well, this area by the wing and by the head of the bird, I need that more rounded. So you go in, and what I'm actually doing is filing up and down, but I'm also twisting the round files as I go, because they are creating a much more defined finish to the round areas. We're going that way. There. To much see cleaner, much cleaner edge. And that's something you can't really achieve with a saw blade, because you think you're just cutting. Whereas this, you're moulding it, you're shaping the perspex away and filing it all round, just to make sure that you're really creating a really beautiful edge to these pieces. You're taking off all the rough edges, you're smoothing them all down, and as I say, just take your time over it. Really just go to town, sit. I mean, for example, the piece I have created, that probably took me all in maybe 3 hours, and it doesn't seem like a long time to sit and create such a large piece of jewellery. Once you get into the flow of it, you'll find that the filing and the polishing is very, very therapeutic.
It becomes easier, and you get used to it.
You really, really do.
Find your way.
Now, obviously, we would create lots and lots of pieces at once. So I've got several other bird designs, bird shapes, that you can then start stringing together. Now, this one, for example, I made as a demo piece, and it was a piece I rejected because I thought, actually, I don't like the shape of it. Don't ever waste anything with the perspex. If you find a shape that you're not quite keen on, like this isn't particularly defined, I want more of a beak to it, I want more of a bird-like structure to it, take it back to the bench peg and start filing again. And it's just about creating those softer areas, softer shapes to the wings. And you can literally go in with your round files, like we have done just with the tail, taking the tip of a needle file and just really changing the look of a piece. So you're just starting ever so gently, just starting to file away and define it. Now you can again groove this, and then using your needle files, go in and shape it as well. Again, if you want to soften, I mean, this edge for me is quite harsh. You just soften it, running that over, you flat file over, and eventually you will see it begins to curve because I'm moving the wing itself against the needle files. Okay? Now, what we can do at this point is we can look at the piece and think, right, I want to create more of a structured design, I want to add chain, I want to add gemstones. But obviously we'd need to use something to attach and to drill into these pieces. So this is where the Dremel comes into play.
The most fantastic piece of equipment the world has ever seen, quite frankly.
It is quite incredible.
It's official.
It is quite an incredible piece.
My manager, he's ordered his. I've decided I need one in my life now as well.
I do not make anything without using my Dremel. I know Laura Binding's been converted, Rachel Norris sings praises of Dremel, and many of the guest designers use them in their own mediums as well. So don't just think, okay, well, the Dremel only works with perspex. Just like with the other tools, you can use it across a range of mediums. Now the Dremel itself.
Are very low in stock on this as well, just before I start. In fact, you know, a majority of what I'm about to show you, we are low in stock, but very much so the Dremel cordless drill, as it will.
Yeah, I mean, we were having a discussion earlier, weren't we, about the fact it is cordless. Many of the other rotary drills on the market are corded, so actually, it makes it quite difficult to use and to move around your pieces if you've got cord, because you're getting tangled up, and it's much, much easier to work cordless. So we've got battery all charged in that, I hope. And it literally, that is your drill.
Nice and lightweight. That's what I liked about it as well.
Yeah, really, really lightweight.
Feels like your hand blenders. That's how light it is, actually. Hand blenders
it's the same as a hand blender's weight. That's a really, really good way of describing it. Now, obviously, we can look through what comes with the Dremel there on the back of the packet.
There we go. So we've got those individual drill bits.
Yeah, you've got a whole host. You've got 2 chucks in there and a whole host of drill bits. And they, if you go on our website, again, there's Dremel Tuitions on the website, but they apply all different cuts, all different finishes to sheet metal, perspex, glass, or wood even as well. And your battery charger there. And your individual, I love the etching trace. Yeah, you can. Trace, etchers. The trace stencils are really, really, really handy. Again, you can etch into perspex as well, so you can create really, really unique designs using the drill bits and the burrs and the finishes that you have inside the Dremel drill itself. And at $64.95, we're limited because the uptake on these has been so great, and we've actually seen, you know, sometimes these go, I've seen similar for second-hand on well-known auction sites, you know, going for more than where we are at right now at $64.95. So we are limited, and I know once you get to grips with this, you'll never put it down, because like you said, it's not just for the drilling of a hole, it's for the etching. We were talking about etching. You can etch glass. Stenciling. You can do... what was there was a picture here of a pumpkin cutting. There you go, that's what Jenny's got it for. Jenny can't wait for Halloween with this piece, so she's going to be cutting a pumpkin. How do you carve those pumpkins? Well, there you go, that's how you do it with a Dremel. You need your Dremel cordless rotary tool, and for your stenciling, for your etching, engraving. I love the idea of the engraving into the plates and the acrylics and the perspex. Again, and you also get with your cordless, the glass, the wood, with your cordless. You get these. This is an extra as well. You do. Am I right? Included. So talk to me about these, because this is included in the $64.95 as well. Yeah, it was, and actually, it's quite a big saving on this particular pack, because this is your polishing and drilling pack as well. Now, what you've got in there is a whole host of different polishing mops and a polishing compound that you can polish all different surfaces with, basically. So you can polish your glass, you can polish your perspex. If you're into your metal clay, silver clay, this saves, if you have dexterity problems, this saves a lot of time on your hands and strain on your hands, because it does all the hard work for you, which is what we can have a look at in a little while when we come to the polishing stages. Marvellous, and that comes with the Dremel cordless tool as well, so that's an extra bonus in there. And like you said, if it saves the effort and the hard work, I'm all for that. Exactly. I love drills. I love them. I know it's not quite a drill as such, but I think of it like that. But it does so much more. It does so much more. It does so much more. But we're very limited, so please, the uptake needs to happen now rather than later, because obviously we're going to try and get some more in. But as we were talking earlier, we're not sure when that's going to happen, because the uptake has just been so popular. So yeah, and also we want to be able to bring it to you at a really good deal as well. So you know what the ox is like. She doesn't get what she wants. She bulldozes away in there. She's a bargain hunter. Okay, so I've got my drill set up ready with the second most drill bit in it, because this drill bit here is within the pack. It actually there's 7 different sizes. Yeah, 7 different sizes. So it's not the smallest, but it's the next smallest, because this fits beautifully our jump rings. So it's the same gauge as our jump rings that we'll be using in this as well. To change a drill bit, to change the chuck as well, you have to push in this blue button and twist, and that untwists, and then you can remove. Like a normal drill. Just like a normal drill. Put that back in, twist that back up. It's always a little bit fiddly, but once it gets to that point, it's much, much better. Now, you have to remember to tighten it. Yes. You do get the screw what would
a
spanner,
spanner,
isn't it? And again, you'd
rather than a chuck key.
chuck key. Pushing the blue button, and there's little ridges. If I turn that to camera, yeah, the little grooves which the spanner sits in beautifully.
Like your spanner would round a nut.
That is exactly right. So let me just.
And on the bottom of the screen, we have still got a good availability of the acrylic jewellery starter kit. That is still available at $34.95. So there's your starting point, and then you can move on with the Dremel drill as well.
Exactly right. So I'm going to peel off the
your stencil,
my stencil quickly. And I'm going to leave the, all the Perspex comes with this protective layer. I'm not going to leave that on until I've finished all of what I want to do with the piece. I'm just going to leave that on because...
Why is that, darling?
Only because the surface of the Perspex is highly polished.
Yes.
So obviously if I'm putting down, I'm sort of moving it around on an anvil, I'm putting drills to it. Yeah, you don't want anything to scratch the surface. Doesn't matter if it does, you can polish the scratches out, but it just saves a little bit of time.
Well, I can now because I've got my additional buffers and polishers.
Yes. Away. So we're going to move the initial bird right back down to the bench peg again, and we're going to drill them. So we're going to set that up in an area where it's okay to drill onto the bench peg. Don't be too precious about your tools. I mean, I've brought in a new bench peg because if you saw the state of my bench peg at home, I think you'd be quite shocked and disgusted. But that's how it is. These things, they get used and they get worked. So
that's just because they're loved and used.
Exactly. Now, if you think of using the Dremel a bit like you would a pen, it's quite precise, so you want to go in as you would hold it like a pen and move it like a pen if you wanted to engrave even with it. So to drill my Perspex, I'm going to set it to the lower setting. So apologies for the noise, it's a bit noisy. So there's different settings on there.
How many have we got? Is there
high and low and off.
Oh, marvellous, nice and easy.
High and low and off.
Like a hairdryer, high and low and off.
Now, because obviously I'm drilling something and it's not that shards are going to fly off it or anything like that, it just produces a little bit of dust.
Yeah.
So I've got my glasses on. If you're working at home, Sofia's going to move away because I've got glasses on to protect my eyes for that. So I'm going to turn it on to low, and you can hear that drilling away nicely. And I'm literally going to touch it to the surface. Trying not to get my arm in shot, sorry guys. And literally drill down. And you'll actually hear the noise change as it hits the bench peg.
Yes.
It almost, because you're going through two different densities, if you like. Now I've drilled one hole. I'm then going to drill another into the wing. And I'm not even pressing hard. I'm just pressing really, really gently. And I'm going to drill another into the beak.
I'll just move that. We can see you drilling there, my darling.
I'll do some more drill holes. Now, one of the designs actually has drill holes along the space of the wingspan as well to hang attachments if you want to do gemstone drops of it.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do is just go through and create those drill holes in this piece as well. So I'm literally...
You've got the wings here, yes, for your jump rings.
So that's what we're creating at the moment. It's not the easiest demo to pick up on screen, unfortunately.
Depends where your attachments want to be, whether you want the two, you know.
So we're just going in.
You just,
and just literally placing it toward, and I'm putting no resistance against it, no pressure, and I'm just literally drilling through. And there you go, nice and quick, and you've already got several drill holes made. You see, there's just no resistance from the Perspex at all. It's really, really easy medium to work.
And I love the fact that you had to put no pressure on that, no effort.
No effort at all, and that's on low setting as well, so it's just straight through.
I suppose that's why it's so adept at the etching and the engraving.
Yeah, it's a really, really good tool. Now what we're going to do, we're just going to have a little quick sneaky peek, if I can get the backing off this, and have a look at just how effective that looks at the moment. So we're going to get one edge and pinch that off if it wants to come off.
It's super protective, this coating, isn't it?
It's super protective, there we go.
There we go.
Now, the nice thing about drilling through when you've got the protector sheet on, if you do slip with your drill, you're not marking the surface at all. You're literally neat drill holes through the Perspex, ready to attach gemstone drops or chain or whatever you want. That's better.
Oh, yeah. Nice and clean, those holes, aren't they?
Oh. There you go.
Beautiful.
Really good shot of that. Brilliant. So by this point, we've got lots of drill holes in place. We've got everything set up ready, so we can start hanging gemstones from them, and we can start building up your design as you go.
Now I've got some gemstones here that I know you'll be interested in. Perhaps you're using, you know, with the actual, because you can match them up with the perspex. You've gone for the black, obviously.
Yeah,
We've got the black and the pink, which is such an absolute classic. And I love the idea of the grey and the yellow there in your sunshine cloud. I mean, it's just inspired. Such fun. This is what it's about, isn't it? It's making the jewellery fun. You can create those stars, and you can create those flowers.
And let the designs work for you. I mean, that particular thundercloud piece, I saw the gemstones first, and I thought, well, they're raindrops. They just have to be.
Have you attempted to do like a weather map for Jed, that makes my little boy, to teach him the weather, and you could do hang the sun when it's going to be sunshine, learn about the seasons. Yeah. You could do autumn, winter.
Really, really good actually. That would look really fun.
The calendar and the days. Yeah, make your own. Do your own advent calendar with all the numbers. And, the possibilities are endless. Rightio, so I'm just going to introduce everybody to some gemstones. We have got here for you the black agate faceted drops. Now these are large faceted drops, exquisitely polished, so really, really big. 220 carats. They're 14 by 10 millimetre, and loads of lustre on those agate drops. Then we've also got, you've noticed the large, these are carved beautifully as well. There's a lovely concave texture to them as well. The large rose drops, like petals of the rose flower. 490 carats, curved slightly, so we've got lovely movement in those as well. You can see the faceting on the curved drops. And then just to mix it up, splice it up a little with shapes and size, we've got the black onyx graduated drops, 75 carats and a 30 centimetres distinctive strand. To buy them all separately from Jewellery Maker, you'd be looking at over £20, but of course, because this is a masterclass special, we want you to get involved, and we want you to add in the perspex with the gemstones. £14.95, under £15, so a massive £5 saving that we can certainly put towards that Dremel drill, or indeed our acrylic starter kit. That's £34.95. So fabulous gems in their own right, massive saving. They're two big strands, aren't they?
Lovely strands.
I can already see the creative juices flowing. I see, because these are the drops, very similar, slightly bigger that you've used in your design. These are slightly bigger, aren't they?
But it's all about using things that are going to give a waterfall effect. You're going to have drops, you're going to have movement to your design, exactly.
Beautiful, and you've mixed it in with the white quartz nuggets. I know we had those on the show. Maybe, you know, I'm sure if you watch one of the live shows, you know, or even on our website, you'll be able to pick up the white quartz if you want to emulate Hannah's design. So big saving there, £5 and more. Our starter acrylic jewellery starter kit is there at the bottom of the screen with the code, and you can always ring the call centre, see if there's any more of those Dremel drills available. Okay, over to you, Hannah, on to the next stage.
Well, we're just creating little drops. Now, I want to create everything in stages. This is how I personally work. If you want to go from start to finish in one go, that's absolutely fine, but I find it easier to make my stages and keep laying them out. Now, you see, I often do this on the show, lay everything out and keep offering it up, checking how everything works together, and I'll often take it over to one of our jewellery display busts and pin it in place as well, so I can see, instead of laying it flat, how it's going to work actually on being worn and being worked like that. So I've got several little pieces set up here. I'm just going to make a couple of drops. Now, obviously, I'm sure we all know already how to make eye pins and loops and things like that, but I'll run over it very, very quickly for you. Just using our round nose pliers, bending away from us, and we're just going to snip these things down as well. Snip down about 1 centimetre from the join or the angle you've just made, and roll it back. Round nose pliers in, roll, and roll to create a nice little loop. Now, I've already done that with a couple of the other drops here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start attaching these to one of the birds, for example, as a drop design. To do this, you want to open up jump rings as wide as possible, and you'll see why when we get to that stage. So I'm using my pliers, I'm just teasing that jump ring open, but I'm really going to town on it. I'm really opening that really, really wide. Now, don't worry about distorting the jump ring. As long as you're securing it, as long as you're doing it in a fashion that isn't too exuberant, it's not going to break the jump ring. So you need to have it nice and open so you can actually fix it through the perspex easily, rather than having any resistance. and then you can also close it around the perspex easily.
What size would you say that jump ring was?
That jump ring I think is a 7 mil.
7, yes. I was just thinking about the thickness of the perspex.
Yeah, the perspex is 3 mil, so that's why we have to open it quite wide.
Yeah.
But you see, oh, I just slipped there. It's not distorted it at all.
No.
We've just pinched that back into place, absolutely no problem. And as long as you're making sure you use your flat nose pliers as almost like a holder, so you're holding the whole jump ring as you do it, you're not going to put it on metal fatigue. So that's how you put your jump rings in place. From that point, you just start building up all the different drops and all the different designs. So you can open your jump ring or open your head pins and start attaching those through. You would do the same if you wanted to attach it to chain, and you would do the same if you wanted to attach it to neck chain as well, so to make the actual pieces that you see on the bust. Now I'm just going to grab one that's all chained up already. There you go. So you see I've already started building this piece. It's much bigger than the piece that's on the bust there, the much bigger size birds. But we've got lots and lots of drops going on. We've got the chain running in between, and then from this point you can then attach a neck chain. The nice thing about this design is it's very catwalk, it's very statement, but it's easily transferable. You can just take one of the birds and make a single bird drop.
Yes,
from a commercial point of view. So if you imagine you're selling at a craft fair, you'd have your big jewellery display set up with the eye-catching pieces, and then in front of that you would have the sellable pieces, which are your more commercial pieces. So if you want single drop earrings or single drop necklaces, they work really well like that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
The one thing I just want to touch on, which I probably should have done before I started on the gemstones, is you can also polish with the Dremel as well. So we're sort of jumping back and forth a bit, but just looking at a couple of the pieces that I previously made, I'm thinking actually there's a slight scratch to the surface of this, or there's edges that just need to be neatened off. Let me try and get, there you go.
Now we do have a few of those Dremel tools left, and don't forget the accessories you're talking about are the polishing
mop.
We'll give you those as well but it's available. You can see at the bottom of the screen there. I do have a few left, but I really am talking a few. So it really is now or never. I'm talking single figures. So we hope to get them in again, but it could be a while. So.
We do hope to get them in because I love working with Dremel.
Everybody should have a Dremel. I think that's the catchphrase of Jewellery Maker. Everybody should have a Dremel.
Everyone should have a Dremel. So what I'm going to do is just quickly take off the chuck I've been working with. Now the pointy, almost like bicone shaped chuck is for your drill bits and things. So that actually has inside it, you see, little clamps that as you turn it into the Dremel piece itself, clamp down onto drill bits and the other bits as well.
Like a drill.
Just like a normal drill, yeah. The other chuck is like this, and this comes in your pack as well. Just like that. And that holds this piece inside, which is for your mops and your polishing burrs as well. So it's just a different chuck, but it works in exactly the same way. So you slip that inside, pop your polishing mop in this way, and then fix it back together, remembering that you have to hold down the blue button to screw it all back into place. Now I'm doing that with my fingers, and obviously getting down to a point, I would then tighten it with the screw, spanner even, in place. So this mop that I'm using, you can see I've already put my polishing compound on there, so I'm not going to put any more on because you don't want to overload it. But it's a really nice sturdy mop. Now this actually comes in the pack as just this piece and the mop separate. You'll see if I turn it to camera, you've got a screw. You have to unscrew this from the bezel itself.
Oh yes, yes.
And then you use the end of your spanner to screw that into place. Okay?
Yes, there's a few of those mops in there. There's 3, and there's some smaller ones as well.
Yeah, so that's how that piece works. If you do get it home and a bit confused, that's how that piece works. And we've dipped it in our polishing compound. To put it into the polishing compound, you actually need to have it running. So again, because it's you're picking up compound and you're picking up things, I'm wearing my glasses so my eyes are protected. But to polish, this is my favourite part. I love this part. I get so excited about this. We're going to turn it on to, we can start on a low to begin buffing. Quite noisy now, sorry.
Would this work on our silver clay as well?
Absolutely, work
brilliant.
on a silver clay. And you literally
Well, it sounds like when you're polishing your teeth, doesn't it?
It does. Now you see I'm buffing towards the edge of the piece. Now this actually, I'll turn it off so I'm not shouting over it.
It's okay.
What
Let
I'm
me move this
actually
so we can see
doing
what you're doing.
is buffing along the edge of the design. When you finished polishing, when you finished the design itself, you need to buff along the edge just to smooth all the pieces over. Because if you left it just needle filed and with saw blade, it can look quite, not rough, but it looks quite stark. If you then buff it with your Dremel, it gives a more curved finish to it. So I'll just quickly do a bit more buffing. And you see I'm always moving.
Yes.
So that's how you do your Dremel. And obviously you're wiping off any of the polishing compound. But if I turn that to camera, hopefully it's picking up, you see that's much more, there you go. You can see the edge that I've buffed is now shiny.
Yes.
The edge below it, which I haven't turned around and done, is still quite matte.
Yes.
And of course I've done lightly over the surface of the piece as well. And that big scratch that was off one side has now been removed. Get the light reflect, there you go. So you can see the polishing compound just at the top of the piece. But once that's all wiped over, you'll see
nice and
that
shiny.
comes up really nice and buffed. And again, you can do it by hand. You can just carry on with your needle files. You don't necessarily need the Dremel, but it does make things so much easier and so much quicker to do as well. Much, much better professional finish to your pieces. So obviously we've buffed it all, polished it all. Add the gemstones to it.
How much polishing compound would you need? Because I know we get the
we
bottle
get the pot in there.
Yeah.
And that I've not used that all yet. And I make perspex all the time.
Ah, so a fraction.
You just need a tiny, tiny bit on your mop.
Yeah.
And that just makes sure the mop isn't scratching in at all.
Yeah.
It's a very nice surface finish to it.
And these are the stencils I didn't get to show you. I mean, there might be one or two left, but just very briefly, could I ask what was that?
Oh yeah, yeah. You see, there's lots. There's lots of different chucks and bits within the tool, but this sort of piece,
We're intrigued.
you can just touch to the surface, and as it turns, you'll see it's going to create a really nice, quick, defined curve to your pieces as well. But again, experiment with it, as you've just done with the needle files. Experiment with the bits, and just see what effects you can create with them as well.
It's fantastic. There's loads in there to experiment with. Loads.
Okay, so we've drilled it, we've polished it, we've got all your gemstones set up for your hangers, and what we're going to do is just attach them. So I've already created a couple here, and using my flat nose pliers, you can just literally open.
We've got our gemstone bundle there just at the bottom of the screen.
And close those off as you would do normally on jewellery making, on beading, anything like that. There's no special tricks to this, it's all just opening and attaching and moving along.
And we've given you a big £5 saving on the gemstones there at the bottom there, $14.95. They're all drop shape. It's the agate, 220 carats, 490 carats, the rose quartz curved drops, and 75 carats of the onyx graduated plain drop. So should be at least £20, but they're $14.95. And there is the code NMGC06 for your acrylic jewellery starter kit.
So at this point, it's just about building up the design. It's just taking your time, attaching all your elements, attaching your drops, attaching chain, and it might not sit right first time. That's no worry. You can just take them off and attach them in a different way. And then obviously adding it, building it to a chain length, keep offering it up, keep trying it on, making sure it sits right, making sure the drops fall nicely as well, and continue that up to the neckline piece, which we have done on the larger bust itself.
Fantastic, great use of the chain there, because we always have excess of that chain in our kits, and we sell the chain separately as well. I think now the Dremel's all been allocated, so remember to check out those baskets. We're going to obviously try our best to get some more in, but there's just no date that I can give you when that is going to happen. However, we can get started.
We can get started
with the acrylic starter kit by the cutting and the filing and the buffering there. We've put it all together with the anvil, with the peg, with the saw and the .03 saw blade. You've got your royal blue, red, white, grey, black and yellow perspex sheets, all in the Jewellery Maker box there. So, I mean, that's your starting point, isn't it, with all the files as well?
Is. I mean, the best thing about that kit, the only consumables within it would be the bale of saw blades. You get 12 in that pack, so that's going to last you quite a while. And then you can just buy the perspex in single sheet from our website as well to replace and update. And
they're available singularly on the website, but of course by bundling them like we have, we've made sure there was a big saving for you.
Absolutely.
Right.
There we go. So that is very succinctly how we demo Perspex jewellery. So what we can do is just then make it into your own. You can create your own design. So for instance, I just want this as is. I don't want to add any more birds to it. I don't want to add any more drops to it. So at this point I would add my jump rings and my chain. And again, it's all about creating quirky features. If you imagine this medium is very, very unique, if you like. It's very, very big at the market at the moment. So what you want is a medium that is just interesting. So just go to town on your design features, play about, have a go with them. Now, if I just grab you one piece that I've got tucked away down here.
Some more examples?
I have another example. So this is just simply a letter A to begin the demo. But you'll see I've already drilled the places where I want to attach the jump rings, and I already got it ready to begin demoing with it as well. But this is a great example of how you can personalise jewellery. So if you've got a best friend and you want to make her an initial necklace.
Oh, fabulous.
It's just a really, really, really quick, easy way of doing
Either
it.
a key ring or like
Absolutely.
I said, a necklace or handbag charm.
Handbag charm.
If you're drilling a hole, I noticed that's quite close. Is there a point at which we shouldn't go to? I mean, is there a point at which it would snap? If I was, how far in would you?
It's hard
risk?
to say. I mean, you can get quite close up because Perspex is very
so
durable.
strong, yeah.
But I would say always leave it about 0.5 centimetre from the edge if you can, just to be safe and sure. And also it makes a better design feature as well, because if you imagine if you're putting your jump ring so close to the edge, you're not seeing that Perspex around the jump ring. It just sits better if it's up towards one edge of the piece there.
Now here's a question. How did you get the hole in the middle? Because I can't get my saw in there. So how did this bit? Was this where my little chucky?
You can either do it with one of your larger size chucks, or you can do it with your drill bit chuck. And what we've actually done in this case, if I grab one of the birds, I'll be able to demo it on screen for you. And we'll quickly change over from our polishing bit back to our drill bit, and you'll see how
do we get that hole in the middle?
That hole in the middle. It's actually quite a fun technique. So put that, take that one out.
So we're putting the
drill chuck
back on again. We've got a spanner to lock it into place, and you're using the second finest because they come with 7 of the drill. For those of you who have been successful in getting the Dremel, you get 7 different drill bits there, and you're using the second.
I am indeed. So I'm just going to have to turn this to me so I can see.
That's okay, darling. I'll just show me drills. And these are the ones you can use for the engraving, or indeed your pumpkin carving. Also, you could do all sorts of intricate work on candles as well, couldn't you?
Yeah, wax carving on candles is quite exciting.
Not just fruit carving.
Not just fruit carving.
But that's something good to practice on, isn't it? It's inexpensive, in all honesty. I know I'm joking around there, but in all honesty, it's something to experiment on, and while you improve your dexterity with your engraving, you know your free flow initials, or
exactly. It gives
before
you
go onto the glass.
Yes. Okay, so to create cutout shapes in these pieces, I'm going to demo on just a piece I have to hand.
Okay.
We drill down into it 3 points. So imagine we're creating a nice design inside this bird. Oh,
is your drill bit? No,
it's not ready.
That's what happens. It's not.
That's where it happens.
Did you tighten your chuck?
Let's just tighten that again.
Yeah.
Come on.
I only know from a drilling at home. My other half's not allowed to drill since he put up a shelf upside down, and there was about 16 holes in the wall.
16?
How
do you
roughly,
manage
there's
that?
only supposed to be 4.
How do you manage that? My
He
goodness.
was banned from there on in, from the drilling, so he's not allowed to go near it. I've banned him. Yes, I have, yeah.
There we go. So we've tightened it now. That always helps.
There we go. Ah, so you've
So I'm drilling down. I'm just creating a triangle.
a few points there, yeah.
Making a few points. And what we actually need to do is...
So could you show us, so you've just drilled 3 bits there.
3
Can you
bits.
see that if I put my three little bits there?
There you go. 3
Like
bits.
a triangle.
And what we can do, this looks very, very complicated, but it's not. I'm just unscrewing my saw frame, popping out one side of the blade, and I'm going to slip the saw itself, the blade itself, through
the hole.
one of the holes up to the top.
You see, once it's explained to you.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense when
Yes,
it's
I know, but I would
explaining
never
it.
arrived at that conclusion.
No. And then, of course, what I'm doing, obviously you need to create the tension back in your saw blade. So I'm popping that down, putting pressure on it from all sides and tightening that. Now, because I've already drilled my holes, we then just cut. Yep. And again, cutting nice up and down, up and down. We're not tipping the blade at all. We're not stressing the blade at all. We're just going straight through the perspex. You can hear the tone of that has changed slightly. Now that's probably due to be replaced. So we cut through, and that
You've done a good 15 birds there on that.
Yeah.
We're using that one saw blade, so.
And you see we've popped through to the next hole that we've made. Because it's a big hole, we can just literally move the saw blade round and continue cutting. Up and down, straight to the other hole in your triangle. And that should pop through, and then move it round, and again straight through to the other hole as well. And then cut through, we will get there.
And you use the second size drill there for the saw.
Yep, absolutely.
Would it go through the first one if I was doing the first one?
It would go through the first one, the
Smallest.
saw blade
Yeah,
would,
so
because
any of those,
saw blade
the
is
0.8 all the way up to the 3.2. But even the smallest of the 0.8, the finest there, drill bit, Hannah used the second one there, the 1.2, but even the 0.8, your drill saw will accommodate.
It will go through the hole. One. So again, to get the piece off, you literally unscrew the bottom side of your blade, slip that through, and there you have created. Go around this way. You've created a really nice cutout, and obviously if you want to do letters and things like that, you can make really, really lovely designs and open work designs by drilling through with your Dremel drill and then inserting your saw blade and cutting through. There you go.
Fantastic. And then we just sort of finish that off with a bit of finesse in our files.
Exactly the same way as you would do the outside. You use your needle files, just smooth those areas off and round them as well.
For our letters.
Okay.
Anything else we should look out for in terms of handy tips while we're getting started that you can think of?
When you're getting started, it's best just to take your time with these pieces. As I say, you get a couple of offcuts, so just practice on them. You don't want to go straight into a design and realise perhaps you haven't quite mastered one technique. You just want to easily be able to work this. If you're using saw blades, if you do find they keep sticking, you can lubricate them with either balm or just, it doesn't sound particularly pleasant, but a bit of spit. I don't know how else to put it, but there you go, that's what you do with them. Just to make sure that blade keeps running smoothly, but because you're working on perspex, it's a really, really non-resistant medium to work with as well.
So, like you said earlier, we don't have to apply too much pressure.
No,
just keep that vertical movement, and the key thing there was move the perspex.
Move the perspex
as opposed to the saw,
because that's it's exactly the same if you're cutting with scissors, cutting a piece of paper, anything like that. Move the perspex, put pressure at all sides of the perspex as you move it as well, because you don't want it bouncing around when you're trying to cut it.
Like we said, the movement of material as if it was going around a sewing machine.
Yeah, exactly right.
Well, the Dremel tool has actually all sold out, I'm afraid, for the time being. We're going to do our utmost to get more of those in, but we do have the starter kits still available. That had the saw frame that you saw, the actual saw blade, the 12-piece needle file set, your bench pin combination anvil with the peg, and then 6 of those sheets that are 8 by 6 inches, all in the Jewellery Maker box. And of course, you know, when we were looking at just the saw without the blade, it was at least £11 on our own website. And these are some of the finished pieces you can place. We've also got the gemstones. We took £5 off those. That code is at the bottom of the screen. But Hannah has created 2 gorgeous pieces. And you said you started with the gems here. You were inspired by the raindrop blues.
That's exactly right. Look for pieces that are quirky. Look for inspiration and unusual things, and you'll find really quite fun ways of working this perspex. You could perhaps create maybe cartoon characters for your children.
Yes, door names.
Door names would be lovely. But it's all about having fun. It's all about injecting that colour to your pieces, but working them alongside your gemstones as well.
Exactly, make them exciting and innovative. Because if either of these were on I mean, they catch my eye immediately.
Yeah, exactly right.
So striking. Because we can't always get these shapes in your gemstones in the glyptography, so let's create them out of our perspex. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the masterclass. I want to say a big thank you to Hannah.
Thank you for
having fabulous. I hope you've all got involved with the perspex and been inspired. Don't forget, these tools are adaptable with the other elements such as your silver clay, and indeed I think there's going to be a further development with cutting out the metalwork as well, which the Dremel tool and these tools we can apply to as well. Have fun. I can't wait to see them on the Wall of Fame.
Oh, me either.
Very excited about that, and let us know how you get on. You know, keep in touch with us on our Facebook page, and let us know how your designs go with the perspex. Now this is going to be uploaded onto the YouTube site, so you can go back and have a look. So thank you for watching. I'll see you later, but thank you to Hannah.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy your Perspex.